I'm John.
I'm Dave.
And we're the Hardware Guys. Actually, Dave, I've moved on. I sell real estate now.
So we're the House and Hardware Guys?
Right on.
If you have the love and support of a family, you can always have a positive attitude. And nothing can go wrong, nothing can feel wrong in your soul if you have that family behind you, and if you have the support of, like for example, John and my daughters and my wife especially, and my mom and my brother. You know, that support, that family structure gives you a positive attitude. Life is great, you know. I mean, what else do you need?
Oatmeal chocolate chip cookies and a big glass of milk. The odd time I start to feel down and out or whatever, and Carolyn, she'll make me up a batch of these cookies and a big glass of milk, and we'll just sit on the couch and I'll eat the whole thing. Bye!
Like a princess.
321423 is a section of land. What we're doing this weekend is commemorating the 100 years that the Hartneys have been in Saskatchewan.
I never met hardly of my cousins, but now I know them. We're going to do the scavenger hunt, and then we're going to find some stuff, and then meet new people.
Are there lots to meet?
Yes, probably 300.
Wow. And how old are you?
I'm 8.
Is this your first family reunion?
Yes, it is.
So far, so good?
Yeah, I like it.
What's good about it for you?
I get to see my cousins and my aunts and uncles that I haven't met yet.
And are you finding that you have a big family?
A very big family.
Is that a good thing?
Yep.
Is this your first family reunion too?
Yep.
Are you 3 brothers?
No, he's brother with him.
And this is our cousin.
John Hartney decided that we'd all get together and plan this 100-year event, and it was wonderful for all of us to get together and know each other and connect in that way, because we would have lost it. We were second cousins. Everyone likes to be close, and it was nice to maintain that. And just the Irish is all coming out, because it was an Irish descent, and tried to keep that element there, so that's kind of nice. Just how we can all be friends just because we're related, for no other reason.
Originally it was, one section divided 4 ways basically. The year was 1902. The original, his patriarch or whatever, was Joseph Hartney, and his 4 sons were John, Mick, Patty, and Jim.
I'm married to Joanne Hartney, one of Joe Hartney's kids, and this was a chunk of their homestead out here, I believe.
Granddad Hartney is Joe, Sonny Joe. When there were buildings, we used to come out every summer. There used to be a row of trees, garden, ice house, garage. See where the little indentation is? That's the road.
The road went right down, and then to the end of the section, then the house was... we would have moved out for a whole year in 48 or 49, I don't remember. And then when we started to go to school, I started a year later. And then what we would do was move into Moose Jaw in the winter and out in the summer for about 5 years. And then after that, my dad would just come out and farm in the summer. That's why we moved to Moose Jaw, was to go to school.
All you got to do in our family is that you just say, "Hey, Mike, Dan, and Pat, come here," and you get half the crowd.
Yard we're going to now is one little ancient home, and there's a little short, low slung affair. And originally, the original owner, it was the first mobile home in existence. They used to move it back and forth to drink water in the winter. And I don't know, with horses, I guess, but when you see it, it looks like it got moved one too many times.
but it's one of the original homes. And this is the house that was the mobile home that was moved back and forth to drink water in the wintertime. This is where we used to come to be babysat. My mom and dad would go to a dance in Rollo and they'd leave us off here, and they were more progressive. They had television when we didn't have it, and it used to be a real novelty to come and watch Juliet and Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday nights.
If this old house only knew its children, eh? We used to come here to visit my cousin Clara.
To come visit when we were kids. The last farm we were at, we'd come over here to visit and have the turkeys chase us. There were many turkeys. We were scared spitless of them. And our little cousin Kathy would get the whip and just keep them in line, which we were in awe of.
I was out here when I was little, and I remember visiting the people in the house, the low-sloped house, and seeing Clara. And then the turkeys. There was just turkeys everywhere. Just tons of turkeys.
The original survey stake for every section is located on the northeast corner. All it is a square steel rod with some Roman numerals stamped in it, just giving the land location. And when you come out looking for your homestead, that's what you look for. But it was quite difficult when you consider the hay or the grass. Prairie wool might have been 2 feet high, and you're looking for some little 1-inch square rod stuck in the grass out in the middle of nowhere. So you did well to find it.
There were no roads?
No, there's nothing.
This is Uncle Jim Hartney's land. And he was a pretty happy-go-lucky kind of a guy. Played at dances, trailed around the country, lived a long, long life. People had decided he couldn't look after himself, live by himself, so they arranged for him to get into a senior's home. Well, he stayed there for less than a year, and he decided that those old fellows there couldn't hear very well, couldn't see, and nobody could play cards but the interns, and they didn't have much time to play with them all the time. They couldn't play cards all the time. They had to do their work, so he just checked himself out. He was just interesting. Huh? I liked him. You'll see his grave when we go to the cemetery. Uncle Jim Hartney, and he never had any children. He was never married, but I guess because he was the youngest, he was around longer than some of the other people. And he just had a lot of stories to tell and covered a lot of ground. Everybody knew him, all the family. He covered around many of the areas, like he was in Weyburn, he was in Moose Jaw, he was around, so people all knew him.
To look at the topography, you can't see a tree hardly anywhere. My dad, when he was 3 years old, he went back to Ontario with his mother and spent the winter there. And he said he couldn't get over the amount of telephone poles everywhere he looked, and what they were trees. He'd never seen a tree in his life.
Oh, there, I didn't recognize you. Mother would always let us go barefoot the first rain in May. Couldn't go barefoot before that. And we had lots of cattle and lots of horses.
This is my older brother, Walton.
The Great White Hunter. Advocate of interest-free money out of the Bank of Canada for public works.
I'm sorry, we just want this picture. This is my dad's grandfather's original place. So we just want a picture of this, just for a second.
Is this where Grandma and Grandpa lived when they first got married?
This was where the uncles had homesteaded in 1902. And the only thing that's left is this little chicken house, the only thing that's left.
The original.
But one of the nephews lives in that house now.
There's one right there that's far.
This is where I grew up. It was a 2-story house. There was an ice house with a cistern. My dad used to cut ice in the winter, haul the ice in, put it in the cistern, and it melted all year, and we pumped it with the old hand pump. There was never a problem with anyone not being welcome. When anyone came to this home, it was an offense if they left without having a meal. But my mother would capture SaskTel employees and people that were working on crews to certainly stay for lunch if they ever came near, and she always had homemade bread and a main meal at dinner time, get the potatoes cooked, and she was always worrying about when my dad was coming, so she could go up in the upstairs window of this house and she could see every spot that we owned. So she could tell at what corner of the field he was at and about how long it would take him before he would be in for lunch. So she could have lunch ready anywhere between 11:15 and 12:30. Didn't matter. There'd be mashed potatoes, roast beef and gravy, and always pie for dessert. Didn't matter what time anywhere near lunch that you came. And that was without running water, electricity, and for the most part, refrigeration.
Amazing. That is amazing.
This is for us. One old goat and one cute chick. What is your name?
Emily Chalavillo.
And you live here?
Yeah.
How long have you lived here?
Since 96.
96? Oh, so it's
My
a good,
husband died in 88.
so it's a
and
good
I-
place to live then, eh?
Well, I had an awful time to get used to it because we lived in a big house.
Oh yeah, and to come
And,
down to...
Yeah, and this was no place to put it. I
Yeah,
had
no
way
basement
where
or
to put
garage
it,
or, yeah.
so- Yeah. But anyway, the people are good. They're
Yeah.
helping me.
How come it doesn't run out the bottom? You never used it.
I never used it. You know, I get things
It's
from
got
my
all...
kids.
Yeah, that you don't know.
Well, we don't know what to buy. I said a phone call.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I told my kids. Or else come and help me do something, hey? But don't buy it.
I can't see anything at the moment.
And this, what is this?
A foot thing, you know?
For putting on the ground.
Tough doing it. I took a class from Eddie Durkich. There were about 12 of us took that course. We were out in this field bashing rocks. That was damn hard work. But it's interesting, the one guy who Eddie kind of said might have a future in this, and that was Murray Whitlock.
Yeah.
And he has done a fair amount.
Yeah,
since
he's
then.
done quite a bit, yeah.
And all of us had visions of building these stone walls around our yards and all that, but after 8 hours of banging those damn rocks, most of us just went home and said, okay, we'll leave that to
But
the
there are
experts.
certain rocks that you can't do anyway. You can only split certain
Yeah,
rocks.
Eddie was saying, I mean, I know a fair amount about rocks, but Eddie was saying you can see the lines in there.
You haven't got to
Just
see them,
you
you
just
can't
gotta
split.
pick those lines, and it, you know, damn lines, if you smack that rock once,
And it would split.
it would split.
And you look at a seam and you take this little, it's a hammer with a, well, you know what they look like.
Yep.
And you go around like that, pretty soon, whoop, falls apart. It's just amazing.
Mike Tupchenko.
Oh yeah, he used
Down
to do
the
it.
street here, I was living in the trailer court, and he was building on Sandy Donald's, the one right at the end of the block here.
Yeah. He built Peter Flats too in his house.
He's good. He was beautiful, and I stop and chat to him every day. But go home about 5 o'clock, he'd be quitting for the day. He'd cover all his rocks up with blanket and tarp.
Oh, he was a perfectionist.
Tuck him into bed. To be just the ones laying there when he'd go home at night.
He was a real perfectionist.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't know how to do is to break those damn rocks.
Yeah. The cattle used to be in the barn, so you had to clean it out. So you threw the manure on the stone boat. Most children these days wouldn't find that very appetizing, but then you hook your sleigh onto the back runner of each of the sides of the stone boat, and you got to go for a ride when you took the manure out. We were impoverished.
We only heard of people that had television.
And electricity, eh?
Yeah, the only family that only had ice cream in the winter. Literally.
Well, so that brick of ice cream you brought from town, and then you had to eat it all right now or it melted.
Oh, I remember that time with Uncle Jim there, we'd go to church in Rollo, and he was a very generous guy, and after church he'd go down to the Chinese cafe or whatever, so my brother and me were riding with him, so we'd go in there and he'd buy his cigars for the week or whatever, and buy us whatever we wanted, and some of the other parishioners that happened to be there pulled up to the confectionery, and we were going in, the father of the crew says, well, Jim, be sure and buy us something too, and he had a whole carload of kids, so Uncle Jim was buying us ice cream cones or whatever, so he being very generous, we'll get whatever for all them kids too. Well, this parent was just kidding and they left, and
we come out, we got a dozen ice cream cones, and there's 2 of us, and it's about 90 degrees out. So we pretty well ate ice creams, like wolfed her down all the way home. And I remember getting home, and Kathleen was ticked right off because she was in the wrong car and she didn't get anything. We were so sick of ice cream cones by then.
That was a big highlight, the ice cream after church, though. You hope you always, like, being a gain of distance thing. Uncle Jim would drive his truck up here, what, 1.5 miles from his place to the corner?
The road there where we turned.
And then we'd come by with our vehicle and pick him up. Take him the, few miles into church, but that way he didn't have to take his own vehicle. So we always liked to pick him up because after church, when he had to go for cigars, we always got to have treats also. Yeah. Otherwise, it was touchy whether we did or not. Sometimes we did, sometimes we didn't.
Yeah, we were the Waltons before it was fashionable.
It sounds like you have a lot of fun though, even now.
No, we exaggerate.
You know, like everything, it gets better with the telling. The actual story wasn't nearly as fun.
Well, like, say my friend, this friend of mine is somewhat of a writer. His comment on history is that history is simply the sum of what you want to remember and what you choose to forget. And I think it pretty well sums it up.
Sunny out today, and cool too. It feels good.
Auntie Margie Gunn, her name was Hartney. She was, you know, the daughter of Johnny Hartney. And because she put a book together of basically with our extended family's history, we came to understand something about our extended family. When she put that book together, we could read it and we could figure out who was who and what family they came from, because we had 10, like our grandfather had 10, there was 10 siblings altogether. And when you put it in that format, we could start to figure it out. And I don't think most extended families have that. They kind of hear about their relatives and that's about it. So because of Auntie Marge, I think this is the real reason why this is taking place, because it created an interest in it. And when John Hartney, my second cousin there, and that would be his aunt, mentioned it last year that we should do this because it was the 100th anniversary, that's where the interest came from. Everybody said, yeah, right, let's do it, you know, and it was a lot of fun.
Yes.
Thank you.
Rice is cheap.
Lived right along the North Dakota border. And so him and my dad went down to North Dakota and they bought a couple gallons of that Everclear. It's high alcohol. And he brought it back here and he says that's what saved the rest of it. But pretty good story. I don't know if it's true or not.
Julia's my grandmother, but Elizabeth Brody was.
Welcome to the Family Memorial Service. Today we remember all those who have gone before us. Let us be mindful of all we have, for which we thank our predecessors. In giving thanks, we are truly blessed.
Bless these flowers, by which we will mark the resting places of our family members. May the flowers be reminders, landscape that has been home to the Hartney families 100 years.
Great will their blessings be. God has put them to the test and proved them worthy to be married.
They called him Gerard. It says God's finger touched him and he slept. He was 3 months old.
I don't know exactly where they are.
It's my great-grandparents and my daughter's great-great-grandparents, yeah.
Yeah, see, I never knew
The original couple that came out here from Ontario.
Yeah.
Joseph and Ellen.
I mean, they always saved him.